And hello, everybody, and welcome to our online MBA info session. My name is Anna Patterson, and I have the pleasure of being with you here tonight with my colleague Manfred Buchner.
Good evening.
He's the program manager of the Global Executive MBA, which many of you are probably interested in, as it's the focus of tonight's MBA info session. So what's going to happen? Basically, Manfred here, my colleague, is going to give you an overview of our MBA programs, who we are at the VU Executive Academy, a little bit about what we're like, who we look for in students, and then the floor is open to you. It's open for your questions. So tonight, if you have anything that crosses your mind, please send it to us in this chat box that you see at the bottom of your screen. And I'm going to be taking notes, and at the end, we're going to come back to each other, you and me, Manfred, for a little conversation on everyone's questions.
Perfect. Sounds
Perfect?
good.
Yeah?
Yes.
So we're just going to be swinging right along to our presentation today. And Manfred will take you through.
Exactly. Thank you, Anna. As you've just heard, tonight's intention is to give you an idea of, what to look at when being interested in an MBA program, what aspects you should have like a detailed look at when applying for an MBA program, because there's so many MBA programs out there that it might be hard to find out which one is the right one. And by that, we're gonna break it down into the basics aspects, as you just see in front of you. And through that, we're gonna introduce our portfolio as well. So what do we mean by basics? First of all, it's about the branding. So what is the image reputation of the university or the business school you are studying at? The second aspect is about accreditations. So as I just mentioned, there's about 15,000 different MBA programs out there. So the level of quality is quite important, and being accredited just represents a certain level of quality. I'm gonna go into that. I'm gonna give you more information about that later on. Anyway, who are you studying with? So it's about the selectivity, about your future classmates, and I can tell you from experience that apart from the academic content, mostly every alumnus of the program tells you that the learning from each other, that's what's really key in such an MBA program. In times like these, internationality, obviously a very important aspect as well. So how international is your MBA in terms of faculty, in terms of the student body, in terms of field studies? The core component goes with C, it's about the curriculum. Obviously, when looking out for an MBA program, you should go for a program whose content, whose curriculum matches your expectations and will provide you with the knowledge you are, interested in, obviously. And finally, we are looking for satisfied customers, for satisfied students. We hope to achieve that through setting up programs which, on the one hand, meet the needs of the current business environment, and on the other hand, we try to provide students with, knowledge and skills that they think they need in order to prosper on their own career paths. So let's start with the branding. Introducing ourselves basically. VU is Europe's largest business university. We have about 23,000 students studying here, and we're proud of our partner network with about 230, universities worldwide. We are top ranked. We're quite proud about this as well. And a fancy side note, I might say, is our new campus, which we're proud at. It's a very nice place to work at for us, but more importantly, a very nice place to study at, because we are convinced to be able to provide you with, state-of-the-art learning environment. So these were the facts about VU. VU has its own business school, which is called VU Executive Academy, and that business school basically provides all the executive education. By executive education, we on the one hand mean like corporate programs, open programs, but we also have like open enrollment programs. So basically the MBAs and the law programs, some BBAs, some certificate programs, but the major component, I would say, are the MBAs here and the law programs for sure. About the accreditations, the second most relevant aspect, as we said before, if you have a look at the slide here, you'll see that we are accredited by the four major accreditations worldwide. If we go for the Global Executive MBA, you'll see that that program is Triple Crown accredited by the ACSB, by EQUIS, and by AMBA. So by all, the relevant institutions in the UK, in overall Europe and the United States. And that is something quite unique. Out of those 15,000 plus programs worldwide, only about 70, so 70, are accredited by those three institutions. And on the one hand, it's like a level, a sign of quality for you when looking out for your MBA. On the other hand, more and more HR departments are also looking out for accredited MBAs because when you look for candidates, you certainly want the best qualified ones, and that's obviously those who go for the best education. So the next aspect, as mentioned before, is the student body, the selectivity that we try to come up with. So who you are studying with, because as mentioned before, that is really key. So the learnings from each other, that is a really essential part here. And you'll have a look at the admission criteria, which we put on that slide here. So we look for undergraduate degrees. We look for a minimum experience of 3 to 5 years of relevant work experience for the executive programs. It's obviously about more senior people, more experienced people, and a proficiency in written and spoken English for the executive MBA, for the global executive MBA, or German for other German programs for sure. An aspect which I would want to highlight in that regard are the personal admission interviews. We really, I would say, insist on them because we want to get to know you in person, because for us it's important to see what your expectations are, to be able to communicate our expectations, and to see whether you as a person, as a student, would fit into our classes. That is something that we really want to take care of, because after all, those classes really spend a lot of time together, and we need to be able to assure a certain level of quality in that regard as well. If you look at the class profile, you'll see that students for the executive MBA are around 37 years. For professional MBAs, they're slightly younger. We are looking obviously for experienced people, 13 years to 10 years. We're quite international classes, and that is something that we are proud of. For the executive MBA, for example, it is in the current class, it's 19, so 19 different nationalities. So when you walk into those classes, you really can feel the international spirit, and it's not just a selling kind of thing. We're not calling it global because we hope to reach a larger audience. We really live that, and we are happy to be able to do so. Class size is about 30 to 40, sometimes 45. That is a number that we think that we can deal with on a great way, academically speaking. And for the executive MBA, it's going to be around 40 again this year. One thing which we're not so happy with is the male and female ratio. So it's way too few female students. So if there's any female student out there, we certainly encourage you to apply. We're working on that, but sadly it kind of represents the whole trend in the MBA environment. Internationality, as touched on before, is quite relevant for us. And here you have an overview, like a slide, which shows that we are, represented in the United States, all the way through to China. So residencies in India, in the Emirates, in Spain, Russia, obviously, and in several locations in the United States. And that slide obviously changes over time, and we want to add on new stuff, because we are convinced that we can give you learning, international learnings as well, through books, through lectures here on campus. But we are convinced that it's essential to go out into the world and experience firsthand what it's like to do business globally. And through that residencies, we are proud to be able to achieve that. Obviously, our faculty is quite international as well. Here you have just a very a glimpse, so to say, the list of faculty teaching at the Executive Academy, which is quite international. Again, we try to have like the most international faculty possible, and at the same time, people who have business experience and teaching experience obviously at the same time, and to know how to communicate the essential aspects of international business. Not such a surprise, as we're having a quite international student body. Our alumni club is quite international as well. It's the largest in the CEE region. We're very proud of that as well. And we provide about 30 events each year, providing alumni with career counseling and some further activities in that area and some online services as well. And as a little side note, I could tell you that when I started working here, everybody was telling me about the network. And at the beginning, I thought like that is just some kind of sales thing that I would need to include in my communication. But I can tell you from experience, it's really working. People really are open and really motivated to get in touch and to exchange professionally, but also on a personal level. And that is really great to have a network of very, very, experienced executives to be able to rely on and to get in touch with. Obviously, like any other network, you need to be active and engage in it, but it's really something that's working. Here we come to, as I called it before, the core component, the curriculum of the program, not just the program of our programs, of all of them, so to say. We have the Global Executive MBA, which I'm the program manager for. So if there's any specific questions in regard to that program, I can certainly help out here. Additionally to that, we do have an executive program in Bucharest, very, very well managed there as well. And then we do have a German-speaking executive MBA called PGM, Postgraduate Management, which is slightly more soft skill oriented. So these are the executive MBAs. And then we do have the professional MBAs, which are targeted at a slightly younger audience and giving students the opportunity to specialize either in functions or in specific industry areas. I'm going to go into detail about that later on. So about the curriculum, how is it set up? How do we, how is our teaching set up, so to say? You'll see that the core of it all is the core module, the presence days here on campus in Vienna, which are from 4 to 6 days. For the executive MBA, for the global executive MBA, it's about 4 days, Thursday till Sunday. And these are the days where the real lecturing is taking place. Prior to that, we ask students to prepare in a so-called pre-module phase, which is about 2 weeks. We provide you with all the learning materials, and you need to do some, some readings. You need to come up with some presentations, go through some case studies. So the initial idea is that everybody is on the same page once everybody is here on campus. So when you're here in Vienna in the classroom, the idea is not to come up with very basic stuff, with basic questions, because everybody should be on the same level by then already. And obviously, after those 4 to 6 days, again, the post-module phase, where there's going to be some, again, some case studies to work on, some exams, some assignments, some essays to write in order to finalize your learning experience in that module. And we provide all of the learning materials, obviously, in a hopefully nicely set up learning environment online. So there's an online site which provides you with all the materials you need. Going into detail about my program, the Global Executive MBA, global vision for global ambition. That's what we want to try to communicate with that program. It basically equips you with 2 degrees. So one from the EU, obviously, but another one from the United States, from the University of Minnesota. And that is specifically interesting for people who want to go for a job in a multinational, for a company environment which is specifically interested in the American culture of MBAs. And sometimes people are asking, well, the University of Minnesota, I haven't heard of it yet, if you're based in Europe. But I might tell you that's a very, very great university. They're very strong research-wise, and they have a very fantastic network of alumni, because after all, they are based in Minneapolis, which has the highest concentration of Fortune 500 companies. So there's quite some really, amazing business know-how there. Apart from the degrees, you'll have the chance to experience how business is done globally, as we always say. So we go on 3 international residencies. We go to Russia, we go to Asia, to India, and to China, and then we go to the United States for a final residency, and then followed up by the first graduation there. Obviously, as mentioned on the slide, you're going to benefit from the network here, as well as from the network provided by the Carlson School of Management. I think that is everything which is essential to mention about the basics. You see it's quite international, just as mentioned before, the places that we go to. And I know that probably people who are interested in doing such a program already do have like a, quite a nice track record of international experience. I do experience that in many interviews that I do, but still going together with a group of 40, executives to all those places, experiencing it from a different perspective and having like the academic backup as well is an experience which will certainly, be beneficial for you. No question about that. That virtual team project, as is mentioned here in the slide, is something that we kind of think of as a USB, something that, again, we are proud of, to be able to provide students with a project which is different, but we think will provide students quite efficiently with international business know-how, So that virtual team project is set up like you are working together with 2 students from the Chinese cohort, with 2 students from the United States, and with 2 to 3 students from the Austrian cohort. And all of you are working on a kind of a business plan. So on a very basic level, it's about introducing a new product into an existing market, or introducing an existing product in a existing market, so to say. And that gives you a lot of learning opportunities to see, on the one hand, how people internationally, from their different regions in the world, approach business plans, how they approach business itself, how to do business, but also like how to, perform on an academic level. So there's a lot of room for learning experiences. There's challenging and tough moments in there as well, but let me tell you that once you walk out of that program and then that project, nearly everybody is really happy with the result. And you're certainly free and open to give some input and to come up with suggestions what kind of topic you would want to touch. So if you might have a company which says, hey, we would want to have some further insights into that or that area or product category or whatsoever, you are certainly free to suggest this kind of topic for the virtual team project. It might not be, it's not granted that that topic will be taken, but you certainly have the chance to throw it in there and work together with your peers on that topic. Exactly, final presentation during the US residency. So you will present your paper, which is about 35 pages altogether for all 6 people in the United States, and you're going to get feedback from the academics, but also from alumni who will join for these sessions, and they're going to give you feedback from an academic, from a professional point of view, obviously, and that is quite relevant. And it happened in the past, like up to 4 to 5 peer group, so to say, which would kind of work on their business idea later on and kind of transfer it into reality, so to say. So really set up their own businesses afterwards. Here you will see the student profile of our students for a Global Executive MBA. Again, we hope to be as diverse as possible in terms of nationality. You'll see we are quite international. That certainly depends on the students applying for our program for the upcoming class. We are quite international again, but I don't have the exact numbers right now. So these are basic facts from the last 3 years, so to say, just summarized. In regard to the job functions, again, quite diverse. There's some general management focus from some students, but again, we strongly believe in the fact that diversity is key. It wouldn't make sense to have a class of 40 people, everybody around 40, and having a finance background, so there wouldn't be much academic and business learning in that context happening here. In terms of industries and sectors, quite diverse again. So if you have any detailed questions in regard to that, I think we can answer them later on. The professional MBAs are those programs which are targeted at a slightly younger audience of people who want to specialize in an industry or in a certain job function. It's about giving you a strong business foundation, which is the business core, which is about 30 days here, and then you move on to the specialization, which is about 20 days, and then you have the master thesis additional to that. And here you'll see the specializations taught in English. It's energy management, it's entrepreneurship and innovation, it's finance, it's marketing and sales, and project management. So those are the programs that we are offering in regard to that. And if you do have just going back, if you do have specific interest in any of those programs, I can certainly connect you with the program managers in touch and in charge of those programs, or else with the academics or alumni or whatsoever. So if you're interested in that, just let me know. The application process is hopefully quite simple. We try to break it down and make it as simple as possible. We ask you to come up with an online application. So I, as a program manager, would then provide you with an online link just to put in your basic data. We would then check your application documents, which will be the letter of recommendation, 2 letters of recommendation, a letter of motivation, just why you want to do the program, and your CV. Obviously, all of the documents provided in English, because in my case, all the documents that I get at one stage basically go to the Carlson School of Management in Minnesota, so they need to be in English. If all of those documents are fine, and if we think you're an interesting candidate, which is hopefully the case, if you fulfill obviously all the official requirements, we then invite you to a personal interview. And those interviews are either held by the academic director, by alumni, and or a program manager. In my case, it's going to be me and an alumnus of the program, and that is something that we insist on as well in some regard, to have somebody join such an interview session who's actually done the program, who knows what it takes, who can understand questions from a different perspective, and who knows what questions to ask, because he or she has been in that situation before as well. The decision comes around within 2 weeks, so we try to be as quick as possible, but sometimes, academic directors are not as easy to catch because they travel a lot. So within 2 weeks, you get your answer. It's either an acceptance or denial. Sometimes you think students are just a bit too young or not experienced as well, so we waitlist them and ask them to come back in 1 or 2 years. Future potential is referred to as those students which are just obviously too young, but have a great potential, and we want to get in touch with the later point of time, as it is called here. The last point, which I told you, we want to have satisfied students. So customer satisfaction, student satisfaction is certainly something that we try to focus on. After all, it's quite a huge investment of money, time, and energy that you put into your MBA programs. And how do we actually measure that? And one of the best ways to do that is having the Financial Times check you, basically. So the Financial Times ranking represents the satisfaction of our students, because the Financial Times ranking is based on a survey, basically, which is filled out and worked on by our alumni, so people who are 3 years out of the program, and by then can say how relevant such a program is, and how good of an idea it was to join such a program, what their learnings were, and if their expectations have been met. And if you have a look at the numbers here for the executive MBA, we are quite proud to be on number 44, which again for an Austrian program is quite successful. In the European Business School ranking, we're on 43, which is nice as well. As for the Financial Times ranking, looking at the work experience of our students, we're number 7 worldwide, which is just really an amazing aspect. And if you go for the international course experience, we're number 17, which is really fine as well. There's other figures and other rankings in there as well. I could, tell you for hours about those. If you have like specific interest, just let me know. Just mentioning the MBA in Bucharest, where we are number 1. Don't ask me to pronounce that newspaper name, but we're number 1, ranked by that, really well-renowned media outlet. And that just shows that our programs fulfill a really high level of high level of quality approach, so to say. So that was it basically. So the basics have been covered, hopefully. One aspect which I would want to touch with you, and which I think some of you might be interested in, are scholarships. Right away for the executive MBA, for the global executive MBA, starting in April, we only have like the Better Master Scholarship to the right available still, so you could apply for that until the end of February if you are, a citizen of the CIS countries. There have been other, scholarships for that program in the past couple of months, which have just been, finalized. For the upcoming intake in 2017, we're certainly going to provide a larger number of scholarships again, but for this intake, that is the only one which is available still. Finally, I just would want to add for the executive MBA, I would want to add the information that in general for executive MBAs, you do not offer as many scholarships as for other professional MBAs or other MBA programs, because at one stage you would expect potential students to be able to cover those costs themselves, as we are looking for senior executive people for the executive MBA. I know it's a huge investment. We are very well aware of that, but just as an additional note for you to understand where we're not offering as many scholarships as for other programs. If you have a look at the left side of that slide, you'll see that there's a huge number of scholarships for the professional MBAs. So there's CE scholarships, there's SME, NGO, MPO scholarships, there's entrepreneur scholarships, which are really awesome. So we want to support startup startup-minded people as well. And then we do have merit-based BU scholarships as well. Obviously, some female leadership scholarships, which we had for the executive MBA as well, but that's just been finished the end of January. So if you are specifically interested in one of those for the professional MBAs, I would just ask you to get in touch with me so I can connect you with the the program manager of one of those programs. Yes, that was it so far. I tried to be quick and not to get you asleep. And now we are open and ready. Anna is going to come around the corner to answer your open questions, which we're happy to do. And let me add just that we really appreciate people who take the time to join such info sessions like this, because we are convinced that you need to look around in order to find the right MBA program for yourself. I always say I'm not doing any kind of sales because it wouldn't make sense to talk anybody of you into doing my program, for example, because the best program you need to do it and it will fulfill all your dreams and whatsoever. If it doesn't match your expectations, if we're not open and honest about it, it's just not working out. It's counterproductive. You walk out of the program and say like, that was not what I wanted. I invested way too much money. So our policy is to try to be as open and honest as possible and give you all the information you need. So you are basically, ready to make your decision. Perfect. So Anna's gonna come around the corner.
Yes, hello again. We have a few questions coming in from our audience, who is, by the way, did you know that some of our members are sitting in Russia right now?
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So greetings to Russia.
Mm-hmm. And we had a first question coming in from Svetlana. She actually had a few questions, and basically she wanted to know about the learning topics applicability in a real work setting. How true is this for the Global Executive MBA? And maybe you can have an example too to show just where the learning material was really transferred into the work environment.
I mean, that is a question that comes up quite often and is, difficult to answer because it's quite specific.
Okay.
But yes, there is, learning applicability.
Yes.
The thing is that the whole curriculum, I think for most of our programs, is set up that way because the initial idea of an MBA is to provide students not so much with an academic learning. Yes, there's academic components, like it's an academic basis, but you need to provide students with relevant business know-how. So that's what we try to do, and that's why we have faculty who has either worked themselves as business people and who know how business really works. Not just an academic who's been an academic for 40 years and doesn't know anything about real life. So it's people who know what the world looks like business-wise, and so we try to have the right setup in regard to that. We work with tons of case studies in order to give you a way in order to learn how to approach certain topics, and it certainly is transferable. And one thing which I would want to add here is it depends on you as a person. For some people, it's like so obvious they are able to transfer it immediately, like from one module to the next one. I have like people like an alumnus who I do the interview with, and then there's people who take 3 to 6 months to actually realize, okay, I can do it here and there. And it also depends on your job, whether your job allows you to do that.
But is it possible then to say, okay, I'm going to focus on this part of my job in a homework assignment or something like this to really make the effort to bring it?
Yes. We try to come up with assignments which actually really encourage students to bring in their own business experience, their own job experience, to focus on that. So that's certainly true. Not for every aspect. I don't want to lie. I mean, for statistics or whatsoever, it's sometimes hard to really do that. You need the basics for that as well. But yes, it's always on our list to do so.
Okay, and Martin was wondering, what is the average workload per week for these modules? I know they're blocked.
That is a very, very good question. So for the modules on the weekend, you mean or in general the workload?
Well, maybe give us a time frame. Is it Thursday to Sunday?
Exactly. It's like for the Global Executive MBA, it's from Thursday till Sunday. Okay. I'm usually from 9 till around 6. And you have one evening event, and on Sunday we end earlier at 3 p.m. in order to give people a chance to go back home. Those who travel from fly in.
Okay, and so Martin, that's a bit about the modules on site. Let me know if that answered your question. We also had another question coming in about the company visits. I mean, where have you visited? Which companies have you gone to?
Well, we go to, when we go to the residencies, we go to different companies all the time. So to say, I don't know, in India, we've been to Microsoft, we've been to SAP, we've been to Cognizant, Tata Consulting in India. Okay. So we try to have like local companies which are quite successful, multinationals, just to give you an idea of how business is done globally, as I always say. And sometimes the learning can happen, from a very, very, huge multinational, but also those really small, medium-sized enterprises give you really profound insights as well.
Okay, so you've visited quite a few different corners of the world.
Exactly. If you would want to have like the detailed list, I could give you afterwards. I'm getting old and forgetting about these, but there's a broad variety of companies that we go to.
Okay. So I mean, I hope that answered your question, Martin, and Svetlana, about the company visits and the question before. We also had specifically from Zhao a question about case studies. If you can maybe highlight a bit about the time frame of a case study. He wants to know, is it a large part of the course, if I understand him right, that you use on case studies?
Well, that depends on the module. That depends on the setup of the lecture. If you would really want to break it down, I would go for about 30%. And then there's like the other 30%, which is really in-class discussion about certain topics, because our faculty is really advised to really stay away from frontal teaching. So as we know it here in Austria from this regular frontal teaching, that's not going to happen in our programs. We really want students to interact. And then you have some, basic simulations that you go through and, some basic academic
Okay, but the
foundation.
in-class time is, we'd say about 30% for casework.
Yes,
Okay.
but it depends, like in marketing, you have like more case studies because you go through them quickly. And for negotiations, for example, right now we have about, I think, 10 case studies to go through. Some of them you prepare, some of them during the lecture you highlight and focus on. So yeah.
Okay, and another question that came in from Ayman. He's wondering, is it possible to maybe talk to alumni, somebody that can give feedback? Because the main question he has is how is like an MBA gonna be manageable? Some people might have families that are listening. Some might have over a 40-hour job plus more.
Sure. I mean, first of all, yes, I certainly would love to connect you with alumni because again, those are the people who've done the program. They can tell you all the good things about it, all the things that we need to work on. There might be one or two things. But in regards to workload, and it's great that we touched it right now. Again, that's one of those things that we really want to be open and honest about. It wouldn't make sense from our point of view to tell you, yeah, it's going to be easy. It's just, you got to do it somehow. Actually, it's the other way around. We really want you to be aware of the fact that those 15 months that you join the program are going to be intense. There's going to be weekends and evenings where you just have to do things for the MBA. And the general number that we give out is about 20 weeks an hour. 20 weeks, 20 hours a week, so to say. Now I got it right. 20 hours a week. Certainly depending on the topic. If you have a strong finance background, the finance-based modules will be easier for you. Then there might be topics like statistics, which will be tougher. Then you have to invest more time. I always say, look at how many people have successfully graduated from the program. So yes, you can do it, but it just takes the right mindset. You need to be prepared. You need to be ready to structure and to basically to include the MBA schedule into your own business schedule. That's what I would suggest.
Okay. Well, I hope Ayman then answered your question. If not, just let us know.
Exactly.
Another question that came in from Svetlana is about the financing options, specifically if it's possible then to also pay in certain rates or segments. Thank you, installments.
Sure. Yes, we try to be flexible here. So once you've done the admission interview and you get the official go to be able to join, so you're officially admitted, you would be asked to pay 10%. And the rest is payable up to 3 installments, usually paid in around April, May, then September, and then January, February. The really strict guideline that we do have and that we need to stick to is that the whole tuition fee needs to be covered by April 2017. So right before you go to the US residency and for the final graduation. So before you graduate in the United States, everything needs to be covered.
Okay, so before you get that degree.
Exactly. Yes. There you go.
So I hope that answered your question, Svetlana. I mean, financing is probably also an individual thing. If you wanted to work out really based on numbers, you could probably write here.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, but just again, the message is we try to be flexible. So if you need to pay a certain amount this year for tax reasons whatsoever, in Austria it's tax deductible up to 50%. I don't know how it's in other countries, but if you have like a certain timeline, then just let's talk and we'll figure out.
Okay, so hopefully that answered your question, Svetlana. Another question that came in is in the sense that maybe one of your students has to switch, I don't know, jobs or some kind of really strong situation they come across where it's maybe not manageable or wise to do the MBA parallel. Is there the chance to take a break, or how does this help us then?
On the one hand, things in life happen in business and in your private life. We know that. So on the one hand, if you just miss for one module or 2 modules, whatever, we try to make that happen. Try to give you opportunities to either join other courses or you just do it the next year. So that would be like the not the dramatic part of it. If you really wanna take a break, like cancel for a certain period of time, as there are specific reasons, yes, it is manageable for sure.
Yeah.
So you can do so. It's certainly nothing to encourage you to do because there's certainly going to come extra stuff for you to do. Because at one stage start to work on the virtual team project. If you miss out on that, you have to do it again. So there's some extra work to do. Yeah.
Okay. But I guess that hopefully answered your questions. I mean, gives you insights on probably what we can do to be flexible.
Exactly.
If we have any more questions, that's great. If not, I always have a few backup questions.
That is true. She always has.
Because one question that often comes up at other info sessions is the topic about these final projects. I mean, is there an MBA master thesis for the Global Executive MBA? Or?
It's a good question in order to clarify that again. I mean, the virtual team project itself with those 35 pages and the final presentations in the United States, that is your master thesis in that program.
Okay.
And the really beneficial aspect of that is that with your graduation in Vienna in June, it's going to be, I think, you're done with the program. For most programs, it's like you do the regular program, then you finish, and then you have like 6 to 8 months to work on your master thesis, yourself mostly. So it takes some, additional motivation again and some time, obviously. And with that program, that's all included. The not so nice aspect is obviously it's like, much more, what do you call it, compromised, condensed,
yes.
And much more time consuming at one stage. But you will manage to do so. So many others have done as well.
How many graduates have graduated? Let's talk
overall,
about success numbers.
Are you coming up with questions? I think it's about 550, close to 600.
Okay, so that's quite a few people have been able to
Exactly.
manage it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And, all right, so we have another question coming in. You mentioned scholarships. That often comes up quite a lot.
Yeah.
Can you enlighten us a little bit, Manfred, a little bit on the admissions process again? If someone were interested in the start of this April's Global Executive MBA, when should they apply?
Exactly. So if it's for scholarships, you mean, or for in general?
Let's start with scholarships.
Okay, for scholarships, as I said before, for the executive MBA, we only have the master scholarships for CS citizens available still. So if you're one of those people who's interested in that, you can still apply till I think this week, the end of February, and then we will have go through that list of applications, shortlist the best ones, and the best ones will be invited to an interview in Moscow on March 11. That's a Friday. So if you are available on March 11, that is fine. That you could already check your calendar in regard to that. The general application process. You're right. I mean, we are quite close to the program start. April is coming sooner than later.
It's at the beginning of April, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're seriously interested, I would ask you to get in touch with me as soon as possible. So I just could, save you one of the final seats. We still have up to 5 to 7 seats available. Also because we know from experience that at one stage around the end of February, beginning of March, some people drop out again because mostly those people who applied already 1 year ago. So a longer period of time, and things happen, as I said before, in life, job-wise whatsoever, and then they drop out. So there's still 5 to 7 seats available at the moment. I'm having, as you know, interviews all the day, all the time. So get in touch with me as soon as possible, and I'll have a look at your CV, and then I can tell you whether you qualify, in a general level, and then we talk about the details.
Okay, so kind of like a pre-check.
Exactly.
I'm going to go back to the slide quickly on basically how the application process works, because there's the step of maybe the CV check is a little bit new. It wasn't in this slide. But it's kind of a side.
It's not the usual way, because in general we would ask you to fill out, as you just said, the online application, then check all the documents, and then invite you for the interview. Right now, as we are under quite some time pressure at the moment, I would not want anybody to work on the online application, providing all the documents, and then finding out that there's no room anymore, no seat available.
Okay, well
so that is
a great service. Get in touch with us. I mean, by the way, if you want to receive the PowerPoint, we can send that to you. Just shoot me an email with your email address, and I have it just to send you the PowerPoint presentation. And Manfred, you can get that CV check done.
Exactly.
Another question came back from our audience about job change. So let's say graduation is over
Yeah.
or about to approach. Regardless, how many of your former students kind of change work, and where do they go?
Yeah, that is a funny question because when people apply or like show interest in such a program, it's not like they would necessarily say that they would want to move, like change jobs. That's like much more a hidden topic.
Okay.
So at the beginning, nobody really wants to talk about that. Throughout the program, in the second half of it, more or less, people then start to talk more openly about it and say like, "Hey, I really want to change and I want to, go for this or that direction." So there's a lot of change going on. To be honest with you, I would have a hard time giving you a, a number, a percentage. Like if you'd ask me spontaneously, I would say about, I don't know, 40%. But that doesn't mean that for the rest of the 60%, there's no change going to happen because for sure, if you want to, if you go for such a program, you are certainly interested in, developing further, accelerating your career, as we always say. So there's a lot of change going on for those who stick in their companies, but there's some internal change going on there.
Sure. Okay. And I think we do have some statistics available. Manfred is here just tonight presenting on his program where he's the specialist.
Exactly.
But Svetlana and anyone else, just write me an email. I can definitely send you some information on how many of our students change after graduating, because we did do an alumni survey.
Oh, there you go.
On that.
And it's certainly part of the Financial Times ranking as well. They check, how much, whether you've changed and how much your, career progression has been. So we should have to figure
the numbers are there. Just shoot me an email to remind me to send this to Svetlana and anyone else. What about the average payback period for the students of your program? That was another question coming up. And if I understand it correctly, is that just as far as like how soon somebody jumps into a new job, like when does the program pay back?
Okay. Pay off then.
Or pay off itself, I see.
That is hard to answer. I mean, what I always say is like, don't don't expect the MBA, and that is quite open and honest talk again. Don't expect the MBA to change your whole life immediately once you graduated. So that is not reality. That is not happening, at least in Austria or the German-speaking area, because the, how do you call it, like the relevance of an MBA is certainly different here in our region than it is in the United States, for example. Sometimes you have people from the United States who, get like feedback from their superiors and they say like, hey, you're doing a great job at the moment. For the next career step, we ask you to do an MBA. And then once you do the MBA, the next, step is ahead. That is not reality here. And so I always say like, it's a great tool, but you need to work with it yourself. Eventually, yes, there's going to be a pay raise. There's going to be great job opportunities. But it's not like once you're done with the program, everybody will be after you, and then like every headhunter will be heading you down. That is just really honest talk here. So in that regard, you should be careful what your expectations are.
Okay, so very realistic approach on this question. What about the average student age? Some applicants and listeners basically tonight might be under 37. That's the average age of the class. What happens if they apply?
No, see, one thing which we learned is that also in that regard, like in life, age is just a number. For sure, for an executive MBA, we need to look at the age as well because you want to have some, experienced senior executive people. But we've learned, especially from the CE region, that there's many people who are at the beginning of the 30s and have like a really amazing professional background, and that would certainly be beneficial for some more senior people to get some insights in as well. So in that regard, we also believe in diversity, having younger people learn a lot from the more senior ones and the other way around.
Yeah.
For sure, for that program, we need to make sure that there's a greater part of experienced and senior people. But we always are happy to have like a bunch of younger people with still great professional experiences around as well.
Sure, because it just makes it an average age. I mean, you must
Exactly.
have
Exactly.
35-year-olds and 34-year-olds.
Exactly. There you
Okay.
go.
So hopefully that answered your question, Monica. If not, let us know. What about, well, basically our listeners are here. It's the middle of February, the end of February actually, and an MBA process to apply might take a bit longer than just deciding now for the next start. When is the next opportunity to join an MBA of the VU Executive Academy?
Well, there's opportunities in autumn where you could join the professional MBAs. And if you want to go with the Global Executive MBA, the next opportunity would be like in 1 year, then like April 2017.
Okay, so I hope that helped you out. If not, let us know. We have another question coming in from Svetlana. If anyone else has any questions, please let us know. So about the Venemosti scholarship in particular, which is going on now. In the past, how many people have applied for this program, scholarship program? Is it quite competitive to get in?
Well, it is quite competitive to get in because with each scholarship, there's always many people applying for sure. Why not? Take the opportunity. So if you want to numbers, if I remember correctly, last year it were about 70 overall who were interested in applying for Vedomosti. And we awarded about 5 scholarships. I think it were like four.
Okay.
And this year we're just gonna have a look at the quality of people and then decide how many will get the chance to get that scholarship.
Okay, so it's still out there. It's still a chance to apply.
Exactly.
I mean, I think if you had maybe one last application tip, we're coming to the end of our info session. Please send us your questions. We still have 5 minutes, but what's like one application tip you might tell our listeners? They're here extra tonight. They've given us their hour.
Application tip? You mean like what convinces us? Or
something when you get 5 applications that you think, wow, this person really sticks out and makes the difference.
Very, very, very basic advice, so to say, but for us, it's just important to see that you really made up your mind what this program is about. And sometimes you get very, very basic applications in, which people obviously use for other business schools as well, which is fine, But for me, it's just really great to see that somebody really looked into our brochure, looked into the curriculum, whatever, because this gives me the feeling that what you're getting yourself into, that what this MBA program is about, so that your expectations, not just ours, but yours as well, are most possibly met, So that is like best thing for me to happen.
Okay, so if you were listening, you caught that last application tip. But yeah, I mean, we have more questions coming in. This is so wonderful. Our audience is so active tonight. Is there a theory part of this program? I'm guessing she means the academical theory parts of the program. Are they going to be basically easily understandable or interesting to people coming from backgrounds in economics?
I get the question. See, the thing is that this program certainly is targeted an audience which does not have a specific knowledge in business or whatsoever. So it's open to each and everybody who fulfills the basic requirements. So we also have people with, with a law background, with technical backgrounds, with a medical background, We are happy about this because, again, that's all about diversity. In reality, this certainly means that this or that person will certainly have a harder time in certain modules. If you never heard about accounting before, you're certainly going to have twice as much to do as others, for sure. Sure, yeah. On the other hand, if you want to see it, the beauty of it that your learning curve will certainly be high. But yes, you can do it, but it will ask for more involvement, more engagement.
Okay, and if somebody already has maybe or to ask it in a different way, why would somebody do an MBA? What's the difference between an MBA and, let's say, another type of university degree?
Well, we certainly, as I just said before, focus in an MBA about the practical approach of it, meaning like in the regular studies, there's many people sitting in there who never worked before, and faculty is sharing a lot of their experiences, but you as a student yourself cannot really, make out much of it, So that's why when doing an MBA, we certainly want to have business and job experience people so that we can take their job experiences and get them out there and having, discussions about that, and that just doesn't happen in the regular studies. You have like lectures where, I don't know, people from Russia, like with like a 40 something year old Russian lawyer who would say like, yeah, that certainly works in our country. Then you have like a Swedish entrepreneur beginning of the 30s who would say, never happened in my company, never would work in my company whatsoever.
Okay.
So these kind of discussions going on, and there's a lot of real life experience in there. So that is the difference in regard to that. And if you have a strong business experience, like a business background, also academically, I always say like that is a good question because I would not suggest anybody who's just finished his or her business degree and then coming up with some of those 5 years and then heading into an MBA and thinking I will realize, like I will get insights in a totally different way. I mean, statistics is statistics. In that regard, that program we certainly, try to provide with the real life part of it again. But the learning curve for someone like that will certainly be much more in the leadership aspect or in the soft skill area, or in topics which haven't been touched before.
Well, that's a good point that you focused. I mean, our target group for these MBAs might be a bit different than the bachelor student who has 5 years of experience,
sure.
and that's it. So, well, I'd say we're well out of questions by now, and you've done a great job.
Thank you.
I think our listeners got a lot of insights tonight, and if I'm not wrong, they'll probably be coming to you with a few more questions by email.
For sure, that is. You're more than welcome to do so. As I just said before, if you're interested to start this year still, get in touch with me sooner than later, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of interviews, but if there's any questions, I'm more than glad to answer them. Sure.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. Thank you, dear listeners, for your great questions, your active attention. It's always fun when we have that. And thank you to our IT support, Monica Camera, behind the cameras tonight. And have a nice evening.
Exactly. Have a nice evening and hope to see you soon. Take care.
Take care.